buy the house and make the payments, the bank is not going to do anything. They got enough problems with people not paying mortgages. They're not going to go make trouble with somebody who bought a house subject to. They're not happy about it. They don't like it. They would have rather been paid off. But their options are pretty limited at this point, especially if you're paying them. They don't care. Okay? They're not happy about it, but there's not anything that they're going to do about it. But let's just, 25 years in this business, I've never heard of anybody who was paying a subject to mortgage and had a bank go after them. I've heard of people who didn't pay the subject to mortgage, and then of course the bank has the option to foreclose on you, which they will do, whether you're the original owner or the new owner. Okay, so you got to pay it. But let's just say hypothetically that I bought a house subject to, and this particular bank, for the first time in my 25-year career, I found the bank that's going to come and close on me. Good, let them do it. How long is that going to take? It's going to take them a year? 2 years maybe if I want to get an attorney and drag it out, okay? Guess what else I could do? If I really like the house and I want to keep the house, I could go get a private investor to replace the house. I could fix up the house and I could flip it, okay? I could just put it up for sale in the retail market and sell it. I could subject to it to somebody else. I could do a million things, okay? I could walk away from it. That would be that would hurt the original seller. I don't want to do that. My point is that people always go, well, the due on sale costs. I got a friend in the mortgage business, okay? I love the guy. He's a good buddy of mine. He thinks he knows everything. He lives in the conventional world of banks. I live in a totally different world. I'm talking to you about techniques that real estate investors do. This is not the kind of stuff you're going to sit down and talk to a banker, and he's going to know a whole heck of a lot about this stuff, okay? You can only learn this. You can't go to college to learn this. You can only learn it from people who do it for a living, like us that are addicted to real estate. And we sell you all the contracts and everything you need to do it. Okay, so, it's nothing to be afraid of, right? It's a great way to buy a house. I'll give you a real quick example. I met a woman 2 years ago, wanted to sell her house. She had this house, she had a $60,000 lien on it. It was down in Kishtown, which is like in between Kensington, Old Kensington and Fishtown. And she had this boyfriend that was going to do all the construction. So she was going to raise the money from a bank, and her boyfriend was going to do all the construction and renovate the house. So they tore apart the house, and then, of course, the two of them broke up. So here's this poor woman. She's stuck with a $60,000 loan. She can't pay it. She gets behind in the loan. She doesn't have can't raise the money to fix the house, and she doesn't have a boyfriend to fix it anymore. So here comes Phil. I come in. I take over her loan subject to. She was I knew this house would be worth, when it was fixed up, $250,000 easy. She was very, very nervous about the whole process. Really nervous. But she didn't have a better option. And I told her the truth. I said, look, this may not be the greatest option in the world. You didn't buy this house with the dreams of selling it subject to some guy whose truck drove by your house. But I'm your least worst option. I've got a way to buy this house and make money off of it. I got a way to pay your mortgage. I got a way to make your mortgage current, because she was behind. So it wasn't the perfect scenario for her, but it did help her a lot. So this is not a tricky thing you're doing. You're not sneaking and doing something sneaky or illegal. You're actually helping people. It's another reason I love this business, because I know what the heck I'm doing. And I can help people and at the same time make money for both of us. And I'm proud of that. Right? And that's another thing that makes me love this business, right? So, guess what she did? She agrees to do the deal with me. She makes me promise that I'm going to get the loan out of her name in 6 months. Now, I hated that stipulation. I didn't want to be bothered with that. But it was only $60,000, and I needed to raise private money to do the construction anyway. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So I raised the private money to do the construction and to pay off her $60,000 note, and I paid it off for her, just like I said I would in the first 6 months. She calls me up and goes, I wish you didn't pay off that loan. I said, what the heck are you talking about? She says, I didn't realize that when you brought my mortgage current and then you made payments on my mortgage for 6 months, that you were improving my credit. And shame on me, because I forgot to mention that to her. I should have been a better salesman and mentioned that to her ahead of time. Okay? So it just goes to show you that here's a situation. She was terrified of it. Hey, I've been terrified when I rent to certain people. I'm wondering, are these people ever going to pay me? If they pay me for 6 months, I get comfortable with it, don't you? Okay? To me, the do-on-sale clause is no different than breaking a contract between two parties. Let's give an example of breaking a contract between two parties. Let's just say I rent an apartment to somebody and I tell them you can't have a pet in this apartment. And then one day I go there to look at a problem and I hear a dog barking. Now what the hell am I going to do about it? I'm going to get out of here. You violated your contract. You're out of here. I can't do that. There are landlord-tenant laws. I can't just throw people out of a house because they violated the contract. Same thing with a bank do-on-sale clause. It's the same thing, right? Did they violate the contract they signed with the bank? Yes, they did. What's anyone going to do about it? Probably nothing. Probably nothing. And even if they did do something about it, you don't have anything to worry about. Okay? You've got plenty of time to figure it out if you want to keep this house. All right, so I already covered this. Will they call it? You know, let's keep going. Here's something I show people all the time. I'll talk to someone about subject to. I tell you, I talk about it almost all the time I ever meet with a seller. And they go, I never heard of it. That doesn't sound legal. I said, yeah. Do you know what a HUD-1 document is? It's used to close real estate deals. This form was prepared by your government, okay? And your government has right on the HUD-1, line number 203, existing loans taken subject to. Now, if it was in a legal strategy, why would the United States government have it right on the HUD? It's also on line number 503, existing loans taken subject to. So it's a quick way to show people that you're a legitimate business person, this is a legitimate strategy, and while it might not be the best option for them, it's their least worst option at this particular time. Okay? So you want to tell people about it. All right, so why would someone sell subject to? I mean, I just talked about some of the reasons. You know, it depends on their situation. Everybody is different. What's more important to learn about what, instead of why would someone sell subject to, any real estate deal that you do, you absolutely must understand their story. If you don't take the time to ask questions and care about what it is that has happened to them on this real estate deal, okay, then you're not doing your job. Because in order for you to put this deal together, people like to use the phrase, it's got to be a win-win, or it's got to be a win-win. Well, how do you make it a win-win? You need to understand how they got into this predicament, what they intended to do with the property, how they had their problem. Some problem got them into this situation. And ask the questions and be quiet and let them talk. A good salesperson asks questions and then shuts up and lets them tell you what it is you need to hear. And then try to present to them an offer that gets you what you want and solves their problem at the same time. Now, if you can master that skill in anything in life, I don't care if it's real estate investing or anything that you do in life, you are going to close a heck of a lot more deals. I know a wholesaler who has bandit signs all over the place. I said to him, how many phone calls do you have to get until, you know, you close a deal? Or how many deals do you have to look at? He said 50 to 70, okay? I'll tell you, I probably close my deals 1 out of 10. Hell of a lot less deals, right? Because I actually take the time to understand what happened to them. And if you know these techniques, the buyer's briefcase is all about, there's only so many ways you can buy a house. There's 12 techniques in the buyer's briefcase we teach people. It's almost impossible to find a scenario that will not fall into one of those 12 deals. How do I know that? Because I've been talking to people for 25 years about buying their house. I know all the techniques. Now, some of the techniques in the buyer's briefcase you'll rarely use. Once every 2 years, it'll come up. Other ones, like the ones I'm talking about today, private money, it's subject to, they happen all the time. All the time, I talk about them constantly. So, you're going to need the paperwork to do these deals. Paperwork is key. In this business, if you don't have the right paperwork, okay, you can't close the deals. Now, suppose you, based on just the knowledge I shared with you today, you went out and decided to talk to somebody about subject to, and you were successful on your very first try. It could happen. And the person was ready to sell you the house with the existing finance in place. You don't have the contracts. I want you to pick up I want you to do this exercise. I want you to pick up a phone, call an attorney, and ask them, hey, I'm going to do a house subject to, it's a $50,000 run home in Philly. What would you charge me legal fees in order to prepare these forms? I guarantee you that number is going to be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. I sell the whole buyer's briefcase with every contract you need to buy properties all 12 ways, and it's under 2,000 bucks. Okay? Paperwork is key. You got to have all the different paperwork. This is the paperwork you would need for just a subject to deal. But you also need other paperwork for seller financing, for private money, and all kinds of other things. So let's keep moving. That's 2 techniques I just explained to you, how you could buy houses with none of your own money. And they are not complicated, my friends. They are not complicated. The most complicated thing about it is the paperwork, which you don't have and I sell. So if you really wanted to do this stuff, it's easy. You can do it. You can do it. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite ways to buy a house. Seller financing. Now, just not to confuse things, I consider subject to a form of seller financing because the seller is the one who obtained the mortgage and then is allowing me to use it. So subject to is also seller financing. But what I specifically call seller financing would be, for example, if the house was free and clear. If I found a house I wanted to buy, it was a free and clear house. What I would do with that person is I would say, why do I ask them, one of the first questions I ask them on my form that I told you about, do you have a mortgage? What's the interest rate? What's the bank? What's the payment? Now, if they say they don't have a mortgage, bingo, bingo, right away, bells going off in my head. This is a seller finance type of deal, okay? And what am I going to do, all right? I know that they can provide me, I can just make payments to them as opposed to giving them a giant lump sum to buy their house. Okay, so if I could get them to be the bank and basically give me payments, I can buy the house without any of my own money, and that's my goal. To buy houses with none of my own money, without the support of banks, get to keep the properties, and get paid to buy them. So here's a quick example of a calculation I would do in my head or write on a piece of paper. I'd look at this house and I'd say, it's free and clear. What could I rent this house for? I could rent it for $1,295 a month. Well, right away I know I need to make $300 a month cash flow. I'm just guessing. That's a good number for me. All right, 300 bucks a month. If I make 300 bucks a month in cash flow off a house, that basically means I'm making nothing at the end of the year because I'll probably make $3,600 one year when nothing breaks and nobody ever leaves, and then the next year somebody will leave and the roof will leak and I'll lose the $3,600. But basically what I'm trying to accomplish is I'm trying to make sure that this house sustains itself, that it never bleeds my cash reserves. Okay, so now I'm down to $995. Now I know the taxes are $250 a month, so I'm down to $745. I know the insurance is $60 a month. I'm down to $685 a month. So what am I doing this quick calculation for? I am getting ready to make them a monthly payment offer, and I know I cannot pay them any more than $685 a month. This is not complicated. This is so easy. You can just do this in your head when you're sitting there talking to somebody. Okay. So what I would do with this person is, I don't know, let's just say that the sale price of the house was $100,000. I would say to him, here would be a good thing to say. I say, I'll give you $500 a month for 200 months. That would be my offer. So $500 a month for 200 months is $100,000, okay? The little thing here is that if they agree to that deal, I just got myself a 0% interest $100,000 loan that I can take 200 months to pay off, which is like 16 years. That's amazing financing. For those of you who don't understand financing, for those of you who probably, maybe you haven't put a lot of brain power into financing, financing is the key to this business, okay? Just imagine, what if I told you that I had $10,000 a month in mortgage payments that I was making at 0% interest. That would mean that my net worth is going up by $10,000 a month. And I'm not even paying that mortgage payment. The tenants are. Okay? And every time I pay this person $500 a month, the principal balance of that house goes down $500 a month. This is not an amortized loan from a bank with an interest rate and an amortization schedule. This is a mortgage I put together. Now, people are going to say, well, wait, sometimes people will say, well, wait a minute, you're not paying me a rate of return. I said, you're not lending me money. I said, if you had $100,000 to lend me, let's go back to my other slide. I got a beach house you could lend me $100,000 on, and I'll pay you 7% rate of return for your money. You are not lending me money. You have a house you need to sell, and I'm going to buy it. And because I have this kind of knowledge, I am capable of figuring out a way to put this deal together where I can buy your house. Okay? So you're selling me a house, you know, you're not giving me financing. So you can get this, I have never paid interest on a seller financed house, never. Now just imagine if you had $10,000 a month, my net worth is going up by $120,000 a year, and I'm not even paying it. Okay? You want to talk about how to get rich exponentially? This is my favorite way to buy houses. I love seller finance. I look for this all day long.
A question, Phil. In your experience, in what circumstances would a seller agree to finance the purchase rather than taking the cash upfront for the whole price?
All right, I'll explain that in a minute. Let me finish up with this. Okay, this is an easy example because I want you to understand of the house is totally free and clear. Okay, so this would be like a no money down deal with no banks. I get to keep the house, and 100% of the principal is paid down every month. Now, this is probably not what happens most of the time. What happens most of the time is they have some small loan on the house. So you're going to need to put some cash in. Or the house might need repairs. So you're going to need to put some cash in. Or they just plain need some money. You're not going to find people that go, yeah, I'll take that deal. I don't need any money. But you need to understand this concept. This is a simple way of understanding it. I have bought houses like this. But what typically happens is some money has to be put into the deal. So I could go to a private lender and I could borrow money, or I could use my own money. You get into a scenario there where you have to figure out who's going to be in first position. If you're borrowing $20,000, a private lender might have no problem being in second position on it. If you have to borrow $50,000 or $70,000, you might have a problem with that. But you see, so here's how the buyer's briefcase works. Private money subject to seller financing. 3 great ways to buy real estate. But what really happens is it might be one of those 3, but what it probably is going to be is a combination of those techniques. For example, what might happen most of the time would be a seller finance deal with private money. That's a very common deal that I do all the time. But you have to know these techniques. You've got to have the contract. And there's some really intricate little things involved if you're combining strategies. If you're combining taking over seller financing note with private money, you need certain kind of contracts. If you're combining subject to with private money, you need certain contracts. If you're combining subject to with seller financing, you need certain contracts. I provide